Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom to everybody. Welcome again to the congregation of Yashra'al. My name is Kasada Bar, and we're going to be doing another lesson this evening. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we give all esteem to the Father for his love, his mercy, and his kindness. And give you a, let's see how we're going to do this here this evening. I'm going to give you the title of tonight's class, all right? It's going to be kind of controversial. It's not going to be an in-depth study on it, but we're going to deal with it as much as we can tonight. And if it needs to be a part 2, 3, and 4, we'll definitely do that. But the title of tonight's class is called Is Edom the Mystery of Iniquity? All right, which I think is very important. Living in the days that we're living in, I really believe that we should keep a very close eye on what's going on around us, especially what's going on in the so-called Middle East, what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, what is going on with China. There's just so much is going on in the world today, and I really believe that it is extremely important for us to keep an eye on everything that's going on around us. And so, once again, I wanted to tackle is Edom the mystery of iniquity? But before we get started, like in all of the classes that I do, we want to make sure that we give all esteem to the Father. All right, we must do that. And how we want to do that, Mishpachah, this evening on this Shabbat, to those of you that observe Shabbat today, I want to say Shabbat Shalom, but we want to say the Father's Prayer first before we do anything. First, we're going to do it in English. All right, we're going to do it in English, and then after that, we'll do it in Hebrew. Our Father which art in heaven, set apart be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Father, we pray that you give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. Father, we pray that you lead us not into temptation, but deliver us, Father, from all that is evil. For thine is the kingdom, and all of the esteem belongs to the Father through his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, who is that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Israel. So, Mr. Bakar, what we're going to do now is do it in Hebrew. And from there, we'll go ahead and get tonight's class started. Abinu, Shabbat Shamayim, Yit Quadas Shemka, Oyit Barak Melkutka, Retsunka Yahiyeh Ishui, Ba Shamayim, U Ba Aretz, Ut At Ain Lach Menu Tamadit, Umakul Lanu, Kata Atenu, Ka Asher Anaknu, Mu Chalim, U Al Tabi Ainu Layide Nasayon, U Sham Ranu Makal Ra. Once again, all the same belongs to the Father through his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, and we are forever in the Father's debt. We thank the Father for sending his ultimate love gift, Yahushua HaMashiach, to be that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Israel. And without the intercessor, without the Mashiach doing what he did, none of us would have that advocate to operate on our behalf. As we walk this walk, we do this journey in righteousness and in peace and in shalom. All right. So once again, Mishpachah, the title of tonight's class is called Is Edom the Mystery of Iniquity? The reason why I decided to do this class is because, once again, as shepherds in the vineyard, we want to make sure that the Mishpachah stays abreast of what's going on. This is the so-called year 2024 on the Gregorian calendar, and we need to know how close are we. And I believe that we are very close. So I'm asking everybody to make sure that they keep oil in their lamps. All right, let's make sure that we keep oil in our lamps. So let's go ahead with tonight's class. All right, this is the congregation of Yashra'al. I'm your brother Kasada Bar. And what we have first, Mishpachah, below we have a picture, or I have some pictures of ancient civilizations of Edomites of southern Jordan dating around the 13th century BC. All right, so once again, I'm going to show some slides here of ancient civilizations of Edomites of southern Jordan during or dating around the 13th century BC. And as we see in this picture here, Mishpachah, we have an actual city that is sculpted out in rocks. And I found that interesting. Now, what's going to become interesting with this picture here, and you have to watch the whole video, or at least the first three or four slideshows, all right? Because we want to go into depth a little bit about this city here that is actually etched out in stone, all right? And once again, we want to look at some of the locations of these Edomites during the 13th century BC, all right? 13th century BC. So, hold on one second here. There we go. The kings of Israel. We have Jebel al-Mathabah, aka Mount Seir. All right. So Mount Seir in Arabic is known as Jebel al-Mathabah, aka Mount Seir. And what I'm going to be reading from, Mishpachah, is the book of Ezekiel, the 35th chapter, and I want to read down to about the 7th verse, where it says, let's start with verse 1. Moreover, the word of the sovereign came to me, Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, set your face against Mount Seir. Mount Seir is pertaining to Esau, Edom, the city or the capital, Idumea. So, son of man, set your face against Mount Seir and prophesy against Mount Seir, and declare that this is what the sovereign YAHUAH says. Behold, I am against you, O Mount Seir. I, the sovereign, will stretch out my hand against you, Mount Seir, and make you a desolate waste. I will turn your cities into ruins and will make you, or you will become a desolation. Then you, Edom, will know that I am the sovereign, because you have harbored an ancient hatred and delivered the Israelites over to the sword in the time of their disaster at the final stage of their punishment. Therefore, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign YAHUAH, I will give you over to bloodshed, and it will pursue you. Since you did not hate bloodshed, it will pursue you. I will make Mount Seir a desolate waste, and will cut off from it those who come and go. I will fill its mountains with the slain. Those killed by the sword will fall on your hills, in your valleys, and in your ravens. Verse 9, and I will make you a perpetual, and the word perpetual means forever. I will make you a perpetual desolation, and your cities will not be inhabited. Then you will know that I am the sovereign. So I found the book of Ezekiel, the 35th chapter, very interesting as we see the relationship that Esau has with the nation of Israel. We know that Rebekah had twins when she conceived, Esau and Jacob. We know that Esau came out first, and we know that Jacob took hold to Esau's heel when she gave birth to the boys. All right, and these were not identical twins. These were fraternal twins. All right, that's going to be very important. And we see that Esau has had a hatred for Jacob even inside of the womb. And these are two nations separate from their bowels, and one would be at odds with the other. So looking at these cities here, and Mount Seir, also called Petra, Petra, I want everybody to be also aware that the Father allotted every nation its portion of land. Once again, every nation was proportioned or allotted their own parcel of land. But what I found interesting is that before Esau moved to Mount Seir, that there were actually inhabitants in that area prior to them going there. So they had to conquer a people before they moved to this area called Mount Seir. And history shows us that those inhabitants that actually tabernacled or dwelled in that land before Esau were called Horites. Horites, Horites. And what happened now is that Esau actually conquered these people, even made marriages with some of the people there. And so what we're looking at today, in 1300 BC, the question then becomes, was Esau developed enough? Was he mindful enough to actually build these type of structures? Or are the pictures that we're seeing now comes from a later civilization? All right, so let's tackle that here this evening. A brief history of Petra. Now, this is going to be very important, so follow along with me. Follow along with me, Mr. Bakar. Petra, from the Latin word petre, meaning rock. It lies in a great rift valley east of Wadi Arabia, or Araba, in Jordan, about 80 kilometers south of the Dead Sea. It came into prominence now in the late 1st century BCE or BC through the success of spice trade. The city was the principal city of ancient Nabatea. That's going to be very important. The city was the principal city of ancient Nabatea. This is around the late 1st century BCE and was famous above all for two things: in its trade and its hydraulic engineering systems. It was locally autonomous until the reign of, autonomous until the reign of Trajan. But it flourished under Roman rule. So we know now, based upon the definition that we're given now of this area, this now is after 1300 BC. Okay, after 1300 BC. So we're moving closer now to where Rome was actually now a ruling, governing body. So just follow along with me here. The town grew up around its colonnade street in the 1st century AD. And by the 1st century had witnessed rapid urbanization following the flow of the Wadi Musa. The city centered was laid out on either side of the colonnade street of an elongated plain between the theater in the east and the Qasr al-Bint in the west. The quarries were probably opened in this period, and there followed virtually continuous building through the 1st and 2nd centuries CE. All right, so again, there were inhabitants of the land prior to Edom or Esau going there, and these people were called Horites. So what I just read to you now is a much later date, and we're going to talk a little bit about a group of people called the Nabateans. Let's read on. According to tradition, in 1200 BC, the Petra area, it has in parentheses, but not necessarily the site itself, was populated by Edomites, and the area was known as Edom, and Edom means red. Before the Israelites' incursions, the Edomites controlled the trade routes from Arabia in the south to Damascus in the north. Little is known about the Edomites at Petra itself, but as people, they were known for their wisdom, their writing, their textile industry, and excellence and fineness of their ceramics and their skilled metal working. All right. So once again, let me just go back here again. These pictures that I'm showing you of Petra, and again, there were inhabitants of the land of this area now prior to Esau getting there, and the ones that was running that land there were called the Horites. And so when we begin to look at the fine details of how these cities or how these homes were actually carved out of stone. It is amazing. I mean, it is simply amazing. And once again, at this primitive stage of the game, the question is, were the Edomites actually able to build such a fine structure, or is this structure now a later invention by the Nabateans, who were Arabs? So let's read on. The next chapter of history belongs to the Persian period, and it is posted that during this time, the Nabateans migrated into Edom, forcing the Edomites to move to southern Palestine, or Philistine. All right, so again, Palestine is actually Philistine. But little was known about Petra proper until about 312 BC, by which time the Nabateans, one of many Arab tribes, occupied it and made it the capital of their kingdom. At this time, during the Hellenistic rule of the Seleucids and later the Ptolemies, the whole area flourished with increased trade and the establishment of new towns, such as Philadelphia. We have Rabbath, Ammon, modern Ammon, and Gerasa, modern, they have here Jerash. So infighting between the Seleucids and the Ptolemies allowed the Nabateans to gain control of the caravan routes between Arabia and Syria, although there were struggles between the Jewish Maccabees and the Seleucid overlords. Nabateans' trade continued. Now, this is just a brief history of Petra, the Nabateans, the Edomites, and this city in the central or general area of Petra, and looking at the structuring of these temples, the way that they're actually carved into stone. The question is now is whether or not Esau or Edom had the ability to build such a structure. Now, the reason why I wanted to go into this, Mishpachah, once again, is that we really need to know who are these Edomites. Who are these Edomites that have a perpetual hatred against the children of Israel? And then on top of that, who are the children of Israel? Are we to believe that those that are living in Israel today are the original inhabitants of that land? Are they the original biblical Hebrew Israelites? Or are they invaders? Were the original Israelites coming from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob makes up the 12 tribes of Israel, were the Israelites scattered amongst the four corners of the earth, as prophecy tells us? And if prophecy in the scriptures are correct, then that would cancel out the fact and the idea that 1948 Israel became a governing state again. With my research, it doesn't fit protocol based upon what I'm reading in scripture that Israel became a fully governing, operating state in 1948. And I'm going to touch upon that a little bit here this evening, Mr. Picard. And so once again, I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, because we want to talk about, in key, remember, is Edom the mystery of iniquity? Hallelujah. Let's take a look at a book called The Chosen Race of the Caucasus, page 26. Now, just to give you a quick summary of my style of teaching, my character, and how I operate. I come from the schools of 1992 in New York. My teaching style is different. My demeanor is different from a lot of others. I'm a straightforward person. I believe that we're dealing with a rough people, and you deal with rough people rough. Not saying that we can't be kind and gentle. I'm not saying that. But I do know what I'm up against. And this is the way that I was groomed from the very beginning, is that we're dealing with a bunch of selfish, arrogant, narcissistic, in every other word that's in a negative sense, group of people. And if you're not stern and direct in love, though, with our people, they will run all over you. And it's gotten to the point where we need to make a stand. We need to make a stand. And at this late stage of the game, a lot of us that are mores don't want to make that grand stand. But Mishpachah, that's not me. I'm ready to make that grand stand. And what we need to know is, what is it that we're up against? Meaning now is that, who is the adversary? Who are the true people of the book? And how do we get the message across to our folks, okay, that we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites? This ministry or this Torah is like taking castor oil or some type of hard tasting medicine, because our people like smooth things. It has to taste good and it has to look good. But what I'm here to share with you, that Mishpachah, when we truly begin to open up our eyes and see that we are a people with a language and a culture, and being that we have been so indoctrinated with this culture, it's going to be extremely hard to get the people to understand in these latter days here that we have enemies. That's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. And we know, and this is the sad thing about this ministry here, is that not everybody is going to make it. That means mama, daddy, sons, daughters, wives, husbands. They were all called, but not all of them now will be able to listen to the divine voice of the Father and actually come out of her, come back to Torah, recognize our faults and that we have offended our great power. We have offended our great power. And as long as we begin, or as long as we operate out of pocket, the Father will always act out of pocket with you. Or put it this way, the way that the Father is actually behaving with you will be justifiable because you refuse to come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments. So again, I picked up a book today, and I got some of this information from, again, the way that I grew up from, all right? I still like a lot of the teachings that I hear from Israel United in Christ. And again, not everybody agrees with every single thing that everybody says. I get that. I don't agree with everything that everybody says. I've also taken a liking to a lot of the teachings of GOCC. I've taken a liking to, I'm talking about old school, okay? There's a lot of new brothers that I like listening to, all right? But I can't go down the list today. I'm just trying to give you a back drop of where I come from. And my style of teaching is like, it just cuts to the core. You know what? There's not really like a middle. It's just not, there's not like a middle ground. Well, put it this way, there is a middle ground. And that middle ground is actually used to speak to you in a peaceful way. But after we've gotten to that point where it's time for us to move on to bigger and better things, the way that you're actually graduating to the next level, I'm going to actually now be dealing with you based upon your level of understanding. Meaning now is that there comes a point where you have to say no. And people don't like when you tell them no. For the most part, when you tell an individual no, that's considered verbal abuse. You're not taking what I'm saying into consideration. You're mean. You don't like me. And my position, when I have to make a stern stance on anything, it has nothing to do with verbal abuse. It has nothing to do that I'm mad at you or anything. It's just that don't ask me to compromise Torah. Don't do it. Because it's going to always be no. Always. So, the reason why I take that stance is because of what I'm reading. There's a book that is called The Chosen Race of the Caucasus. And those that dwelt in the Caucasus mountain are the Edomites. And they actually do things according to their nature because these Edomites, who I believe are ruling today, are mimicking their past lifestyle. Meaning now is that in their government rulership, they have a place called the Caucasus Room. And I found that interesting. So you have Edomites who are running the world today. Edom is Rome. Edom is Rome. Rome symbol is the eagle. When you go to the book of Daniel, it tells you about the four beasts, the Babylonians, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greeks, and the Romans. But they were all characterized by types of metals and also by beast. Esau's, the Romans' symbol is the eagle. So the chosen race of the Caucasus, page 26, reads this. We're talking about Edom here now. Most of them are descendants of Russian steppe tribesmen who were converted to Judaism in mass around 740 AD. Around that time. Now these Edomites, these Caucasians, being of highly aggressive Caucasoid genetic stock. I'm not making this up. So I'll read it to you again. These Caucasoids, these Caucasians, these Edomites, these Romans, whose symbol is the eagle, most of them are descendants of Russian steppe tribesmen, being of highly aggressive Caucasoid genetic stock. Now, when we begin to look at Esau and how he moves, Esau was told by his father Isaac that you will live by the sword. Esau is about conquering through rape, robbery, manipulation, death, and lies. They are a very or a highly aggressive Caucasoid genetic stock. Modern Jews could be expected to be highly aggressive and consequences. This is not my writings. This is from the chosen people from the Caucasus by Michael Bradley, forward by John Henry Clark, and all of us that are of Negro descent, I would say, know who John Henry Clark is. Jewish origins, delusions, deceptions, and historical roles in the slave trade, genocide, and cultural colonization, chosen people from the Caucasus. It gets deeper, Mishpachah. Now, the Khazar conversion, origin of most of modern Jewry, is a fact discovered by Jewish scholars and a fact accepted by almost all Jewish scholars. Let's read on. The contention that these Khazar tribesmen would have been highly aggressive is simply an extension of the central argument in the 1970s. But what I want to do now, Mr. Because that I want to pick up now because I want to make it, I don't want to be here too long. The Khazar conversion from the same book, The Chosen People from the Caucasus, page 197. And I just want to read here some of the things that even Nathaniel had brought out. I wanted to read out here, just want to make sure that everything is gotten across. My argument is this. When right information is been giving out, I can't get biased and say, listen, well, it came from that brother, and I don't like that brother, so I'm not going to give that brother credit for his research, even though it's correct. But I have aught against that brother, so I'm not going to give that brother or that sister credit. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all. If the information is correct, the information is correct. I don't care who it comes from or even what complexion the person is. Facts are facts, and you can never disprove facts. The essential point is that these Ashkenazim, the Jews of Eastern Europe, and the prime victims of Hitler's Holocaust were descendants of Khazar tribes people. They were converts to Judaism. They, which are these Khazars, and even the Ashkenazims, they have no historical or genetic connection with the biblical Jews of Palestine at all. At all. When you see what Jewish folks are doing now with the Palestinians or the Philistines now who are living in that area, that is not war. That is called genocide. A war is when the playing fields are equal. You have fighter jets, I have fighter jets. You have nuclear capability, I have nuclear capability. That's called war. If you now are shooting missiles at me and I don't have missile capability, and the missile capability that I do have is from the dinosaur age, but you have gotten your armory from America, and it's the only reason why the Jewish folks are able to stand any type of grounds over there in the so-called Middle East, is because America is supplying Jewish folks with the military armory. Let's read on here. But they have no genetic connection with the biblical Jews of Palestine at all. And the Jewish folks are actually annihilating those people. Now, it's not that, I have a dog in that fight there because I know that the greater prophecy is centered around the reunification of northern and southern kingdom, and that has not happened yet. We are right now on the verge of something major that's about to happen. The year 2024 on the Gregorian calendar, Mishpachar, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. But this year is going to be a year like we have never witnessed before. So I tell everybody to make sure that you hang on tight. You save up on your bottled water, on your canned goods, or any type of canning that you are doing. Mishpachar, the lights are about to go out real soon. Very soon. Make sure until things really hit the fan that you're able to sustain your families. Start storing up on things because things are really about to get heated. Let's go ahead with the lesson here. That was just a little sidebar. So they have no genetic connection with the biblical Jews of Palestine at all. And this was known among themselves and among the more astute Jewish and non-Jewish historians and linguists from at least the 1700s. It was a well-known, if disguised and ignored fact of Jewish life from 1850 onward. Most of what we Gentiles in North America consider to be Jewish, and most of what even the Ashkenazian immigrants into North America consider to be Jewish, is not Jewish at all. They're not even, listen, this is what the historians are saying. The reason why I took to Israel United in Christ and GOCC, and again, nobody agrees with everything that anybody says. Hell, listen to this. This might be a shocker. Not everybody agreed with the Mashiach. So if everybody didn't agree with the Mashiach, we see even today that there's a lot of differences with this side of Israel as we begin to do our learning and we're trying to come together. There's different Shabbats, there's different Passovers, there's different waving of the sheaf offerings, there's different the counting of the Jubilees. And so, but at least we're trying. But being that there's differences between us, it is not enough for me to cut a brother or sister off. As long as I see that you're trying. Because what is happening now is that, like I say a lot, what is happening is that those of us that are coming out of the world and want to now follow the Hebraic walk, what I find a lot of us are doing, which is incorrect, is that we're believing that those in Israel are the real Yahudim. And they're not. And being that we believe, or some of us believe that they are the real Yahudim, that the practices and the things they do are correct. So we leave the Christian church, or we leave Islam, or whatever it is that we might have been following, and we gravitate and we start to pick up the traditions of Jewish folks. Their language, which is real big. We want to speak like them. We want to use their vowel pointing system. In the custom that they follow, we want to do everything like them. But then put a so-called black twist to it when it's the same thing. My argument is that there's enough material out here, I believe, that we can study and we can actually now, looking at Semitic languages, not from the Ashkenazi Jews, not from the Hasidic Jews, not from the Sephardic Jews, but there's enough information for us to now to be able to study amongst ourselves these ancient Semitic languages, and we can come together as a community and we can make our own pronunciations based upon our own research. Our own research. My argument is that those that are living in that land today called Israel, those folks are not the original inhabitants of that land. That is my argument here tonight, Mr. Fakar. And what I want us to do is to pay very close attention to what is going on around us today, and that we don't get caught in the mayhem and being confused about what's going on here this evening in tonight's lesson. And I want to say shalom, shalom to Sister Sharon. And I also want to say shalom, shalom to my brother Mikael. Shalom, shalom, my brother. Shalom, shalom. Now, most of what we Gentiles in North America consider to be Jewish, and most of what even the Ashkenazi immigrants into North America consider to be Jewish, is not Jewish at all. The Hasidic side locks, I don't know where that comes from because that's not in Scripture. The skull cap, that's not in Scripture. The way that they're wearing it, okay, because we do know that the Levites now, that we did wear skull caps, and the priests now, they will wear the skull cap, and they'll also wear a mitre around that. So, like again, I grew up in an era where it was believed that when you wore your turban, that you needed to keep a hole in the middle of your turban because it was unlawful for a man to cover his head, which is a totally different lesson. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but the men of Israel did wear head coverings, all right? So I don't believe that, and I learned that back in New York back in 1992. So the Hasidic side locks, the skull cap, the rabbis' fur-trimmed hats, and kaftans, none of that is Jewish. Not in the sense that it originated from the people of Abraham in ancient Palestine. So, Mr. Bakar, these things are very important. They're extremely important in helping us to identify who they are and who we need to be. Now, Mitch McCall, I want you to listen to this presentation that I'm about to show. This is the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and his argument, I want to say this again, his argument is that he wants to talk real briefly about there is no evidence of 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Now, this class that I'm doing is fair use, no pun intended. We're not sharing to, or we're not advocating violence against any ethnic group at all. No ethnic group. I'm simply here showing a video of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his explanation of what's going on in Israel today, and is there evidence of 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust? Mishpachar, please. People are waking up. The only ones that are still sleeping in mass numbers are Negroes, so-called Negroes. We are the only ones that are still asleep. And it's high time for us to wake up out of sleep. The Sexy Reds, the Nicki Minaj's, the Cardi B's, the Megan Thee Stallions, drop it like it's hot, shake it like a Polaroid, shake it like a salt shaker. Mishpachar, what else can we do? What else can you do? Why is there so much hatred in the rap music and in the entertainment world where the only way for you to push or to become successful, or so-called successful in the entertainment business, why are these elites pushing that our women have to be whores and the men have to put out rap songs pushing and advocating violence, drug selling, making women out of whores, shooting your brothers? This is my block. I got to hold my block down. I'm going to rob him of his jewelry. And just in case you so-called Negroes didn't know, the iced out diamonds that you're wearing, it is not real. It's not real. Those diamonds are manufactured. And you're paying top dollar for manufactured diamonds. But you're killing yourselves over manufactured diamonds. Let's go ahead with the video. I pray that everybody can hear this clear.
كيف سمحوا للنازية بالصعود وتأسيس جيش بالدعم الأمريكي بالأموال الأمريكية بالقروض بالاستثمارات 6 ملايين لا يوجد أي دليل بأن هناك 6 ملايين يهودي قتلوا وربما حصلت تحارب لا أحد ينفيها وهناك معسكرات اعتقال صحيح ولكن
Okay, Mr. I'm going to pause the video for a second here. We have a lot of feedback here. What I might have to do is to start it over and keep the volume down and probably just read it. Okay, so let me start over and I'll read what the guy is actually saying. Okay, so let's hold on for a second. And let me try to read what the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian Arab News Agency on YouTube. This is December the 18th, 2023. So this is not an old video. This is a new video dated December the 18th, 2023. And we want to make sure that we stay within inside the time, the YouTube guidelines here. And once again, we're not advocating violence. I'm only simply sharing a video for educational use only, looking at world events or news world events outside of what is shown to us here through Fox News and CNN News. So once again, this is the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian Arab News Agency on YouTube, December the 18th, 2023. Most of us do not know that the rise of Nazism between the two world wars happened with American support. Interesting. The question on everybody's mind is, how is it that despite the German collapse and European constraints, hold on, Mr. McCarthy, we have a little difficulty here. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. Hold on 1 second, Mr. Picard. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I need to get that out the way. 1 second, Mr. Picard. Hold on here. Okay, I'll just let the video play, and you will just have to read it yourself because I'm having a little technical difficulty here with moving this particular icon. Okay, let's try this one more time. The adversary is so busy. We're going to get it done, Mr. Picard. We're going to get it done. So I'm just going to let the video play. You'll read it yourself. Let me try to read it anyway. It was done with American support, money, loans, and investments. There is no evidence that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Perhaps there were Holocausts, nobody denies this. True, there were concentrated camps. But what shows you that this is a politicized situation and is not a humanitarian? Okay, and how comes we talk about these 6 million, but not talk about the 26 million Soviets killed in that war? Are those 6 million more precious? The same acts were everywhere. There was no method of torture or killing specific to the Jews. The Nazis used the same method everywhere. However, this issue was politicized in order to falsify the truth and later to prepare for the transfer of the Jews from Europe to other areas, wow, or other to Palestine. Wow. So this is the same thing that we're reading, Mishpachah, in the chosen people from the Caucasus. Hallelujah. So I pray, Mishpachah, that you were able to get something out of that video that I just sent you. And the information that he's sharing with us is the same information that I'm reading from the chosen people from the Caucasus. The origin of the Jews. The Jews of today fall within two main types, the Sephardic Jew and the Ashkenazi Jew. The Sephardims are also known as Spanish Jews and constitute about 5% of the Jews in the world. The Ashkenazians are the East European Jews, which are found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. Let's read that again. The Ashkenazians are the East European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. This group of Jews make up 90% of the so-called Jews in the world. Many reference and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews were derived from a people known as Khazars. The original Jewish encyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the Jews came from this Asiatic people known as Khazars. It is spelled, as we see, with a CH or with a KH, but these are Khazars. Now, these Sephardic Jews and Ashkenazi Jews, like I said, they make up anywhere between 5% of the Jews of the world. But these Khazars are a people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of the history of the Jews of Russia. Historical evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. Mishpachah, once again, people are waking up and everybody needs to know who they are. Every other people on the planet Earth knows who they are except us. This is the reason why the scripture says, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel would no longer be in their remembrance. Let's pull that up. Okay, let's pull that up. Let's go to Psalms, the 83rd chapter. All right. Let's go to Psalms, the 83rd chapter. Let's see here. Psalms, the 83rd chapter. Hold on 1 second here, Mr. Carr. Psalms, the 83rd chapter. Let me just pull it up here right quick. Thank you for your patience. Psalms, the 83rd chapter. I'm going to start with verse 1, and I'm going to read down to verse 7. All right, we stop at verse 8. Keep not thy silence, O sovereign. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O sovereign. For lo, thine enemies, the Father's enemies, they make a tumult or a gathering, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people. Your people. And consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Yashra'al may be no more in remembrance. For they, which are the other nations, have consulted together with one consent. They are a confederate against thee. The tabernacle of Edom is who we're talking about tonight. The Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, and Edom are the same folks. They're the same people. The Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre, Assur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot. So there is a conspiracy out here, whether or not we want to believe it, there is a conspiracy out here that is sharing with us is that their ultimate goal is to destroy the nation of Israel. And that's a fact. And the so-called Negro that is scattered amongst the four corners of the earth makes up the 12 tribes of Israel. And again, I'm just giving you a rough draft of everything. This is not an exhaustive study on this here, but giving you an idea that we are the people of the book, and those that are living in Israel today are not the people of the book. They're not. So once again, the Khazars, a people of Turkish origins whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of the history of the Jews of Russia. Historically, evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. Again, Chosen People from the Caucasus is a book I believe is a must-have book. So, who or what is the mystery of iniquity? In 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, is the question. My argument is this, Mishpachar. In order for us to properly understand this particular chapter, let's look at a few important facts. In 2 Thessalonians, the 3rd verse, the words that day should not come is in italics, meaning that it isn't in the original Greek manuscript. Also, let's take a closer look at verse 7. The words will let isn't in the original Greek manuscript. There's one more verse that needs to be looked into. Verse 9, the words even him is in italics, meaning that it's not in the original manuscript. So let's read chapter 2 in its entirety to get the basic understanding or the best understanding or understanding possible. But once again, this is the question now, because we're trying to figure out what is or who or what is the mystery of iniquity. My question is, was the mystery of iniquity the future telling of the Roman Catholic Church? Because the picture that you see here is a picture of the Vatican. So, was the mystery of iniquity the future telling of the Roman Catholic Church? Future telling of the Roman Catholic Church. Because I am not saying during the 1st century there was a religion called Catholicism at that time. There was not. But once again, was the mystery of iniquity the future telling of the Roman Catholic Church? Let's take a quick look at the apostolic era and the papacy. This is going to be very important. I believe very important. The New Testament, in particular, the gospel or the good news, records they have Jesus' activities and teachings. His appointment of the 12 apostles and his great commission of the apostles, instructing them to continue his work. Now, the book of Apostles tells us of the founding of the Christian church and the spread of this message to the Roman Empire. Okay, I'm with you so far. The Catholic Church teaches that its public ministry began on Pentecost, okay, which is a Yahudim festival, okay, not a Catholic service. Occurring 50 days following the date the Mashiach is believed to have been resurrected. Okay, and we know that the Mashiach didn't resurrect on Pentecost. He resurrected 3 days after his death, and he was put to death on the midst of the week. And so that will put the Mashiach resurrecting late on the Shabbat. The latter part of the Shabbat. But that's another lesson. Let's move on. At Pentecost, the apostles were believed to have received the Ruach HaKodesh. I agree. Preparing them for their mission in leading the church of the ecclesia of the Knesset. So I agree. The Catholic Church teaches that the College of Bishops, led by the bishops of Rome, are the successors to the apostles. This is where it gets real interesting. This is the reason why I had asked the question. When Paul is speaking with the Thessalonians, who or what is the mystery of iniquity? And I personally believe that is referring to the future telling of the Roman Catholic Church. Because in order for you to have a government, you need a military, you need a language, and you need a religion. These three things are very important in order to hold down a proper government. Now, we're now living today in a different type of society, but the Roman Catholic Church, Mishpachah, is very influential on what's going on today because there's still a lot of Catholics around us today. I did a class before and I showed about 15 edicts that the Catholics put into play, establishing themselves as God on earth. I did classes on that. So I'm not going to tackle that again tonight. I've already done that class. But let's read on. In the account of the confession of Peter, found in the Gospel of Matthew, Christ designates Peter as the rock upon which Christ's church will be built. Okay, I'm following you so far. The Catholic Church considers the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, to be the successor of St. Peter. This is where the wheels began to fall off the cart. Some scholars state Peter was the first bishop of Rome. Others say that the institution of the papacy is not dependent on the idea that Peter was bishop of Rome or even on his ever having been in Rome. Many scholars hold that a church structure of plural Presbyterians or presbyters, bishops persisted in Rome until the mid-2nd century when the structure of a single bishop and plural presbyters were adopted. And that latter, writers retrospectively applied the term Bishop of Rome to the most prominent members of the clergy in the early period and also to Peter himself. On this basis, we have a guy by the name of Oscar Coleman, Henry Chadwick, and Bart D. Ehrman questioned whether there was a formal link between Peter and the modern papacy. Raymond E. Brown also says that it is an anachronistic to speak of Peter in terms of local bishop of Rome, but that Christians of that period would have looked on Peter as having roles that will contribute in an essential way to the development of the role of the papacy in the subsequent church. These roles, Brown says, contributed now enormously to seeing the Bishop of Rome, the bishop of the city where Peter died and where Paul witnessed the truth of Christ as the success of Peter in the care for the church universal. Now, the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church and those of the 12 apostles are different. Once again, the religious beliefs of the Roman Catholic Church and those of us that are Yahudims, or what was prescribed to us on how to have a relationship with the Father, is different. Very different. But I wanted everybody to know now what time we're living in. So when I had asked the question, was the mystery of iniquity the future telling of the Roman Catholic Church? And then the articles that I'm reading now about the papacy, the Roman Catholic Church, I make my stand that this is actually talking about a Roman government, and I believe that Rome is an extension of America by the symbol of the eagle, and it needs a religious concept or idea, because the word Catholic means universal and the word Pope means father. And when we begin to look at the atrocities that the Roman Catholic Church done to believers, I believe that it is impossible to believe that the Antichrist could have been no one other than the papacy. If I need to do another lesson on that, I have no issues with doing that. But let's continue on with the lesson. Now we have Sharon. She says, Asians come out of Ham's groins. We can't judge on skin tone, and Esau has used that as a weapon. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when we begin to look at Esau and his gripe with Jacob, even after conception, was the inheritance. The issue that Ishmael had with Isaac was inheritance. Isaac was the second born. Ishmael was the firstborn, so Ishmael believes that he should have gotten the blessing. Esau was the firstborn. He should have gotten the blessing. This is their mindset. This is the reason why Muslims say that, the heir is actually Ishmael, because Ishmael was the heir. But when we find out and read in biblical history, Ishmael, or Esau and Ishmael, came together through marriage, made a pact with both groups, understanding that they had a common enemy. And that common enemy is the true biblical Hebrew Israelites. Because it was the Ishmaelites now who were also part of the transatlantic slave trade. But let's not go into that too much, all right? Because that's a whole lot of history there. This man of lawlessness, who is this? Who is this? Let's read 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy 2:16. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our sovereign, YAHUSHA HaMashiach, and by our gathering together unto him. Watch this now. As Paul is talking, or Shaul is talking to the Thessalonians, that you be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, watch this now, as from us, as at the day of the Mashiach is at hand. I found that very interesting. Very, very interesting. I want to see if you're paying very close attention to what is going on here. Because anybody that has been following my classes know that I have been on a full attack against the preterist doctrine. All out attack on that doctrine, because I see that it's picking up a lot of speed. And it is our responsibility as shepherds watching over the vineyard, it is our responsibility for us now to keep a close ear. Once again, it is our responsibility to keep a close ear to what is going on. So once again, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our sovereign, YAHUSHA HaMashiach, and by our gathering unto him, and that you be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as it came from us, as at the day of the Mashiach is at hand. Let no man deceive you. Let no man deceive you by any means, for except they're coming a falling away first, because remember, that day should not come is in italics. So verse 3 should be read like this: let no man deceive you by any means, for except there come a falling away first. And that's talking about an apostasy. There must be a falling away first. My argument, once again, is this. During the first century, Yahudims knew who they were. Israel knew who they were. Even those that were scattered in 721 BC, they knew who they were when they were under Babylonian and first Assyrian and Babylonian control. We all knew who we were. Because remember now, 721 is when the northern kingdom was removed from out of their land. But Babylon, when they came into power, they conquered Egypt and Lydia. So, or put it this way, when the Assyrians, the Medo-Persian Empire came into play, they took over Babylon, Egypt, and Lydia. But Babylon conquered Assyria. So Israel knew who they were. So this falling away from Torah, from the ministry of Yahushua HaMashiach, in comparison to what was going on during the first century and what is now going on based upon the Gregorian calendar 2024, we are more removed from Torah now versus then. So except there come an apostasy or falling away first, also that man of sin be revealed. That man of sin is called the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God or the Mighty One. So this person or this individual or this religious system, because this hymn is not talking about one particular person, but is talking about now a religious regime. So this religious regime opposes and exalted himself above all that is called righteous, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of the Father, showing himself that he is God. And this is what the Pope has done. In order for your sins to be forgiven, according to Catholicism, the individual goes into the confession booth. And he says, Father, I have sinned. And then the person now that's in the confessional booth confesses his sins to the Catholic priest, to the Pope, or to one of the bishops who's operating now in behalf of the Pope, and the Pope means Papa or Father. Father, I have sinned. And once you make your confession to the Pope, your sins are now forgiven. So this is what verse 4 means when it says, who opposes and exalted himself above all that is called God, or that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Let's jump ahead and read verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the sovereign shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So verse 8 complements verse 4. Verse 4 in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, the full explanation is in verse 8. So verse 4 and verse 8, Mishpachah, are working together. Verse 5. Paul is telling the Thessalonians, remember you not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. Verse 6. And now you know withholdeth, what withholdeth, or let's use a little bit more modern English. And you know what currently restrains him, so that he will be revealed in his time. Wow, that is amazing. There is so much information that is packed in verse 6, Mishpachah, we will be here all night. But let me just give you a gist of what's happening. And you would know, currently restrains him. Those four metals that are talked about in the book of Daniel. When Nebuchadnezzar has this dream in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, the head of gold, the upper torso of the body of silver, from the waist to the knees, you have the Bronze Era. From the knees to the legs, you have the iron that is mixed with clay, where you have a Western Rome and you have an Eastern Rome. And a lot of people don't like to talk about Eastern Rome. And the reason why they don't want to talk about Eastern Rome, because the people in Eastern Rome looked like you and I. Like you and I. The Byzantine Empire. There is so much history here, Mr. Picard. And you know what currently restrains him? Because my argument is that those governments that were running, there's an underlying entity that was running through each one of those governments. And that individual is that old serpent, the dragon, that is carrying all of these nations. And he has a time to run, a time to rule. I found it very interesting when there was an individual that had demons. A lot of disagreeable spirits was on this individual, on this man here. A lot of demons. And the name was asked, who are you? Legion, which means many. And I found interesting now is that, have you come to cast us out before our time? Before our time. My argument is that this unrighteousness has a time to run. And it's still running today. It didn't come to an end in 70 AD. Mishpachah is still running. that religious system will be revealed in its time. Well, all of us will know. All of us will know who is that woman clothed in purple with a golden cup in her hand. Mishpachah, that is no other than the Roman Catholic Church, the papacy. But let's read on. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Already at work. But the one now restraining will do so until he is taken out of the way. And this is what we're looking for. And this can only be done by Mashiach. Your 9mm, your AKs, your AR-15s, you would never be able to defeat the adversary that way. I'm sure that everybody got the opportunity to watch the movie. The movie is called Leave the World Behind. And that movie was pushed by executive producers Barack and Michelle Obama. I'm the type of individual where I love to watch movies and then sit back and talk about the spiritual applications of what is it that we saw in the movie that reassures us that we're still on the right path. I believe that's one of the ways that the Father is actually speaking to us, is by watching the news, these movies, and just everything else that is happening in our inner circles. And we have to talk about it. So the mystery of iniquity, Mishpachah, is still at work. Let's read on. And when the lawlessness one will be revealed, or when the wicked be revealed, whom the sovereign will consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Verse 9, even him whose coming is after the working of Hashatan, Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness, in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause, Elohim shall send them strong delusion, that they shall believe a lie. What I found interesting is that back about in the mid to early 90s, Catholics were pushing this dogma that people were coming up with these, they say, apparitions where they were seeing Mary, the mother of the Mashiach, on pizza. The statues were crying blood. One guy put up a poster that he toasted his toast, and when he got it out of the toaster, it showed the image of the Virgin Mary on the toast. Sharon just sent a video. I don't know whether or not it was for me to watch or to add to tonight's lesson. But Sharon, was that video that you just sent, was that for me to present to tonight's lesson, or was that something you was doing on your own channel? Okay, so verse 12, that they might be damned who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. But we are bound to give thanks always to YAHUAH for you, brethren beloved of the sovereign, because the Father hath from the beginning chosen you to salvation through sanctification of the Ruach HaKodesh and belief of the truth, whereunto he called you by our good news, because that's what the word gospel means. It means basora, a good news, to the obtaining of the esteem of our sovereign, Yahushua HaMashiach. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which you have been taught. I'm going to say it again. Therefore, brethren, because I believe that this is still applicable for us today. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which you have been taught, whether by word or our letters. Now, our sovereign, Yahushua HaMashiach, and the Father, or Elohim, even our Father, which have loved us and have given us everlasting constellation, or there's a reward, eternal encouragement, a consolation of good hope through mercy. So comfort your hearts, establish you in every good word and work. Okay, so Mishpachah, that is tonight's lesson. All right, and we're going to go a whole lot more in detail a little bit later on the mystery of iniquity, but I just wanted to give you now a quick briefing, a quick backdrop of what I was finding very interesting in regards to, okay, for you, interesting, it connects with your academic skills. Oh, okay, so what I would do, Coach, is that I would definitely put that into the next slideshow, because what I would want to do is present that to everyone. So, Mr. McCall, let me go to 1 Timothy. I'm going to go to 1 Timothy, and that would be the last script for tonight. 1 Timothy 3:16, I believe it is. 1 Timothy 3:16. Oh, that is it. Okay. And without controversy, great is the mystery of righteousness. And so there's another mystery of iniquity. So the mystery of iniquity is in conflict with the mystery of righteousness. But in verse 16, it says now, the mystery of righteousness is that the Father was manifested in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up in glory. So when it says now, the Father was manifested in the flesh, the Mashiach said, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Two individuals operating as one. So if they're operating as one, it's on two individuals, but they're operating as one, then there's only one. Example is like with the side of a household. There's a husband, there's the Isha, and there's the children. They're all individuals, but as far as doctrine is concerned in regards to Torah, they're all one. The man who is the patriarch, the head of the house, he speaks for the family. If anyone tries to speak to anyone in that patriarch's house without going to the head first, and you have a private conversation inside of that patriarch's house, you are now considered an adversary, a nachash, a disagreeable spirit, because the adversary went through the back door. Went through the back door, and granted, my father, Edom, did not handle the situation properly. But anybody that comes through the back door is an enemy. All rules and regulations must be respected in that patriarch's house. It must be respected when he's following Torah, when Torah is first. And not everybody can handle that. So hold fast the traditions that we have learned from the very beginning. Today's society is, in America, you are free to believe and worship whatever it is that you want to worship. Believe whatever it is that you want to believe. And the idea of the patriarch being the head of the household, America does not push that. Does not. There's a new thing that is floating around, where the matriarch is the head of the household. This is the reason why we have the LGBTQ organization, to remove the man out of the house. I don't need him. I can remove my own covering from him, and I can do my own thing. I don't like that. You don't respect me because I should have a voice. You do have a voice. Let's discuss it. But at the end of the day, all final decisions are made by the patriarch of the household, period. So, Mishpachah, as we continue to unravel this mystery of iniquity, as we continue to unravel that, Mishpachah, it is America, Rome, the eagle, Catholicism plays a very, very big role in all of this today. So once again, Mr. McCall, I want to thank you for your time and everything that you have been doing, supporting the congregation of Yashra'al. If anybody is actually interested in supporting the congregation, if you could cash app the congregation of Yashra'al at $ KASADAHBA for all donations and free will offerings. And if you have any questions regarding anything, you have 678-744-7493. I am open to answering any questions regarding tonight's topic. All right, tonight's topic. Once again, the phone number is 678-744-7493. And the cash app donation and free will offerings can be made at $ KASADAHBA. And those funds are used, Mishpachah, for our new place of worship. And let me give you that address. Okay, let me give you that address. Just 1 second here. That address is 270 Atlanta Street in Roswell, Georgia. Okay, let me just check one more source right quick. Let me check one more source here. Yes, Mr. McCobb, that is the address. 270 Atlanta Street in Roswell, Georgia. Once again, this is 270 Atlanta Street, Roswell, Georgia. So the free will offerings and helping us to get things set up in our new congregation. We'll be glad. We appreciate it. And once again, that is $ Kasadaba, KASADAHBA. And once again, I want to thank you for your time in tonight's class. And until the next time, Mr. Bakar, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom, La Yatov.